Today, I had the privilege of speaking with arguably the world's best ever Age of Empires 2 player, Hera. Hera, a 25-year-old Canadian who now lives in Argentina, has been a dominant force in the Age of Empires 2 community. His strategic prowess and dedication have earned him top placements in numerous international tournaments. Beyond his competitive achievements, Hera is also a prominent content creator, sharing his insights and strategies with a global audience through platforms like Twitch, YouTube, and Patreon. Today, we'll explore Hera's journey in the world of Age of Empires 2, discuss effective strategies for players aiming to improve their skills, and delve into the mindset required to excel at such a high level. Whether you're a seasoned player or new to the game, this conversation promises valuable insights. Thank you. So you're based in Canada, is that correct?
At the moment, I'm not. I'm currently in Argentina, but I was born and raised in Canada for about 22 years.
Wait, so when did you move to Argentina?
I moved about 2 or 3 years ago, or like 2.5 at this point, and been here ever since. I really like it down here. The weather's perfect for me.
Yeah, I've heard beautiful things about Argentina. And there's a really famous song called "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina." I'm not sure. Have you heard that song before? I
haven't.
Okay.
I'm not big into music, but I haven't. But I love it here from first-hand experience.
How did you choose Argentina? Like, out of all places, Argentina is it's quite exotic. So,
well, I went down here because I was gonna get married, and the initial plan was to get married here, and then maybe go back to Canada or maybe figure something out after. But I ended up just liking it here so much that we decided to just stay. And yeah, I think it was a great decision. Like I really enjoy living here, and it's a good way to dodge the Canadian winters. Not like I don't like Canada or anything like that, but just being away from the winter for me is just a huge plus.
Yeah, I've been to Canada once. I spent New Year's Eve there, and it was very cold. It was the coldest I've ever. I think it was minus 17 degrees when I was there. And I've never felt such a cold, because obviously I'm from Australia, so it's very, like right now it's like 40 degrees. I'm trying not to sweat here, so you might not be able to tell, but I've had fans on all day. But I can imagine Argentina would be a tropical climate, wouldn't it? So you'd have that nice contrast between Canada and the tropical weather, right?
Yeah, so like Argentina is quite big, so you have like certain places, especially far down the south, that are like glaciers, and you have places that are a bit more cold, you have places that are a bit more, hot. And it's a really big country, so it has a bunch of different areas that have different climates. I'm living in Buenos Aires, the capital, and it's a bit more like temperate here. Like it goes a little cool and a little hot, but usually not too hot and not too cool. Kind of just right in the center, and that's for me, it's perfect.
So what's like the community like in Argentina for Age of Empires 2? Is there much of a community for Argentina?
Oh, it's absolutely massive. Like just to give you context, I lived 22 years in Canada, and like I played AoE at a recognizable level for about 8 years, to where I had some following. I never got recognized once, right? I came to Argentina on the first day, unannounced, by the way. I got recognized in the first hotel I stayed. It was incredible. And then since then, I get recognized like regularly, like once a month. And I'm not a guy that goes out a lot. I don't announce when I go out. So it's just like random recognition in the street, like once a month. It's incredible. And, more than that.
The first time it happened, was it weird? Like, did you go, what the hell? What's going on? Or were you kind of okay with it?
Well, it was not weird, but I was caught off guard for sure, because I was not expecting that at all. And I always appreciate it, because the fans are always super enthusiastic. Like they're like, "Yo, like Hera, like big fan, love your videos. Can we take a picture?" And what I noticed is that the Argentinian fans are also very generous. If there's ever a time where they can they know they're gonna come meet me, they always come with a gift every single time. And I go to other countries, I go to LAN events. I'm not gonna say I almost never get gifts, but I rarely get gifts. Maybe one or two. And that's at a LAN event with hundreds of people. Here, just a few people, they always come with a gift, and it's always something about their culture. Yeah, they're very, very generous, very passionate. So I really appreciate them. Like the fans and the AoE2 scene down here is incredible.
That's awesome. I never would have even thought about that. So that's really cool to hear. Because I was going to say, one of your strengths, I believe, from what I witnessed, is I have a friend, for example, today. I was mentioning today I'm going to interview this guy called Hera. He's really good at Age of Empires. And he's never played Age of Empires in his life. He's one of those rare kind of people who's never played. Never got the CD in the cereal box. I'm not sure. Did you guys have that in Canada? Where you?
I didn't, but I know that you guys in Australia had it. Yeah, I know it's a big thing.
Yeah, so we have a brand called Cocoa Pops, and every single kid ate Cocoa Pops. So every single kid in Australia had Age of Empires 1. Like, it was like a mandatory. Like, if you're a normal person, you had it. Like, it was kind of just it like kind of happened to you. It wasn't something you went for. It just happened to us all. It was really unusual, but it was cool. It was such a great game.
Yeah.
It was literally probably it was my first ever game, Age of Empires 1. So that was kind of the entry. But going back to so I showed my friend who didn't get the cereal box, bit of a weirdo. He didn't get the cereal box, and I showed him one of your clips. It's the clip where your opponent's building a wall, and you got a villager, and you snuck in, you built one of his, that one, and then you just came in with all the hussars and took over the base.
That clip can be shown to anybody. You don't even need to know Age of Empires. That clip can be shown to anybody, and they'd appreciate it. So it was a good clip to choose.
Well, that's exactly what happened. He watched that. He's never seen Age of Empires live, but he thought that was one of the coolest things he's ever seen. I'm like, yes, how good is this content? You see, it translates to everyone. So that's a great strength of yours, and I really do appreciate that. But I guess I've got a few questions for you, and I'm going to start off with the low elo kind of players. I know the low elo legends is like the famous term, and I thought, because let's be honest, most of your viewers are probably low elo legends. I don't know. That could be a big generalization, but I'm pretty sure most people aren't playing how you're playing.
That makes sense. I would say that out of all the streamers, I probably have the viewers that are the highest level, just because I do like educational content and coaching. But just to be real, most people are playing it at a casual level. Especially the guys on YouTube. Most of them just play here and there, and they like to watch the content. So it's a very fair thing to say, and I always say there's nothing wrong with that. Play to have fun, play to enjoy it. AoE2 is great for everyone.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely an interesting game. Actually, before I get into that, how did you discover Age of Empires 2? Or were you an Age of Empires 1 person and then moved into 2, or were you straight into 2?
The story is actually kind of insane. So I was a big cereal guy growing up, but unfortunately we didn't have the cereal deal. That would have been epic. So I didn't come in through AoE1. I actually came in by complete coincidence. Like, it was not something I even intended to play. Basically, we went to a pool one summer. I have a few brothers, so we went just to swim, and we made a couple friends there. Not even like me; it's kind of like my older brothers that made the friends, and they met a couple guys. They had Age of Empires, so they lent us the CD once for us to try it out. We've heard about it. I was like, okay, cool, we'll try it out. So we played it for a little bit, and then after like a month or so, we said, okay, we're gonna give the CD back. And they said, you know what, you guys are enjoying it, you guys keep it. And at that point, I hadn't really even played it. It was just my brothers playing it. I was just watching. So we had the CD, and then once we got it permanent, I started playing. So I started playing the game. I still have to go back and thank those guys. Like, they made a career out of me. They don't even know it. So it's an incredible story of it's just fate that I had to play this game. I didn't seek it out. I didn't know about it. It just kind of landed in my hands, and I ran with it.
Isn't that so unusual? A game, I swear Age of Empires 2 is one of the only games in the world that's had this weird, mystical, like, it just happens to you kind of appeal. You kind of just, it's either for a cereal box or your friend just giving it to you randomly, and now it's created this whole life for you. Did you ever really think this was going to happen, or was it kind of, like, did you know immediately, like, was there something inside you as soon as you started playing, like, innate inside you, or was it something you developed over time? This love for the game?
Honestly, as soon as I started playing it, and even just watching it, I really enjoyed it. And the reason for that is that I've always been into strategy games. Like, I started playing chess when I was really young. Any kind of like logic puzzle, math, like any kind of like logic or strategy, I just absolutely loved it when I was a kid, and still to this day, of course. So when I looked at Age of Empires, I just loved how it felt. I understood it was a strategy game, but I also understood that it's like a lot more than that. It's a base builder. It was satisfying to play. It was relaxing, it was, nice to look at. Just had a lot of factors that kind of hooked me as a child. And I didn't know that I was going to play it like 100%. I went through phases, because I also got into like, I played some FIFA, I played some Call of Duty, played some Zelda, played some more mainstream games. But then I always kept going back to Age of Empires, because it was, it just had something unique that always drew me back.
Yeah, because it is one of those games, because chess is great. But chess never changes, right? Chess is chess, and it's just always the same. And I kind of like that. That's why I play Rocket League. That's my game, right, at the moment. And I like Rocket League because it never changes. It's like, it's just you and the ball and the car, and that's it. There's no one's here to save you. If you play badly, it's all on you. And chess, I feel, is like that. And I would say Age of Empires 2 is like that. The only difference is your civilization pick and the way your map kind of generates can have a big effect, right? But are you the type of player where, like, have you ever played a game, you saw the way the map generated, and you're like, damn, I'm stuffed? Or are you always like the players, like, no matter what the map generation, I will always excel?
Yeah, so I think there obviously is some variance with the map gen, and I think that's one of the, that ties back to what you're saying earlier about like, there's some games that are always the same. I personally don't like that because I think that that leads to a lot of memorization. It leads to a lot of like the same thing, or like you kind of just like, situational luck, as far as who goes for what. I like the fact that there's always some random element to the game of Age of Empires because it kind of rewards more like strategic thinking and planning ahead. And it also has the element of like scouting. So you have to make on the fly decisions. You can't prepare something, memorize it, and then come show it. You have to like prepare an idea, see what you have, and then, work with that. And I love that aspect of the game. As far as me as a player, I never concede because of a map. I never feel like it's completely doomed. I think I still to this day believe there's always a chance. You just,
Yeah.
even if it's like 1 to 5%, if you're smart and you take it, you have that 1 to 5% chance, and you should go for it.
Okay, good. I only tell my friends that because sometimes we get Black Forest map gens and we're like, "What is this? Why do they have 3 perfect lakes and we're just stuck? We've got no lakes. We got the biggest holes. We're like, what is going on here? What are we cursed? We always, I don't know. But then we start getting into the blame games. It's not good. You don't want to see it. It's very
To be fair, that is like incredibly unfair. Spawn on the ranked Black Forest, it can happen. But even in that situation, I would say like you can go for the rush approach. You can go for like a sneak vill. You got yourself a 5% chance. So maybe next time you get that situation, just try something out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go into that because I want your mindset. So, what type of mindset allowed you to excel at Age of Empires 2? What was it? Something that you developed over time, or something you had straight away?
I think I have a very competitive personality. I love to compete. I don't get as much satisfaction playing single player games. I find them relaxing. But knowing it's an online game where one guy wins and one guy loses, I think that's really what drives me. I've always been a competition guy. And I think my intense sense of competition, always trying to win, always trying to learn from the losses, I think that's what kind of drove me forward.
Yeah. So you're in the homeland of Messi. So, you've obviously got that footballing spirit there. Did you ever play sports or anything like that where you got to get your competitive edge out, or has it always been through games like chess and Age of Empires?
No, I also played quite a bit of sports when I was young, and I actually played football, or we called it soccer in Canada, but we'll call it football. So my Argentinian fans don't kill me.
Yeah, I did you a favour. That's why I was scared. I was scared for you. I don't want to say soccer because same in Australia we call it soccer. But
oh, you guys call it soccer as well. I mean, there you go. So yeah, soccer, football. I played that for like 10 years, and it's funny because I've always thought that I was actually a pretty decent footballer for Canada standards, but the unfortunate part is I feel like in hindsight I lacked a lot of confidence and I wasn't really able to kind of unlock that full potential because I was competitive, but in a team environment where if you make a mistake it's not just on you but it's on your entire team. I was a bit more shy in that and a bit more like risk adverse because I didn't want to like let the whole team down, and so I feel like I never really got my full potential due to confidence issues. But when it came to gaming, I didn't have, and especially like 1v1 gaming, I didn't have that same feeling because I felt like I would take any risk and I would bear the consequences fully. And if that's the case, I knew that I can learn from any mistake I did, and I wouldn't have that intense feeling of guilt for making mistakes. So I think I could have excelled in sports, but the perfect environment for me personally was the gaming atmosphere, especially 1v1s.
that's really interesting. What position did you play, by the way? Just so I know, because I played soccer myself.
Yeah, I played a bit of everything actually.
Yep.
I started out like midfield, and then I played goalkeeper actually for some reason, and then
cool.
I was very athletic,
Yep.
and I was decently tall, and then I ended up on fullback positions.
Okay, cool. So you went from center. It's kind of similar to me actually. Center's good because you're the centerpiece. You're the anchor of the team. You're the one kind of pushing it. Goalkeeping's great because you're like looking at the whole, I could say the whole map, I guess, in a sense, and you're kind of directing orders at your teammates, and and then you're the last defense, like you are the last king, you're the king piece, and then defense is good because you get to just be brutal, and there's a tenacity with defending that your like competitive side, you have to like kind of rustle and tussle with a few people, so. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I could definitely see how soccer would have. Do you think soccer improved your like growing up playing soccer? Do you think that had a little translate into your Age of Empires ability in any way, or not really? Is that too far stretch? to say?
No, I think it had it definitely shaped my like my personality or my competitiveness to some extent, because I didn't just play soccer. I played like the highest level soccer that I could for the first like 8 years, because I started when I was like 5
Oh
at the
wow.
highest level that there was available, which is nothing impressive. I'm not like the next Messi, but I played some decent level, and so I always was in a competitive environment, and I think that doing that from a young age just helped build me up. And I think it was also just a healthy outlet for me, just to be able to, be in good shape, play sports, and have good stamina and whatnot.
So going into setbacks then, because in soccer you lose games, in Age of Empires you lose games. I don't think you lose many games, from what I understand, but you do lose games. How do you handle the frustration of losing a game? Do you have something you fall back on, or is it like what takes over when that happens?
That's probably been the biggest struggle for me over the years. So initially, I used to take losses very hard, and I used to get incredibly angry. Nowadays, I don't get as frustrated, and I think I've been able to handle losses a lot better. And I think the best way that I've learned to handle the losses is to try to take something away from it every time. See that the loss is more of something that you can learn from. Maybe it's more of a lesson, and if you were able to take something away from the game, then I would call it, it's actually a win in the long run. And whether what you learn is something mental or something like in the game, it's going to help you for the future. And I think that some of the most important tournaments that I've played were actually losses, and that helped shape me into the player I am today.
So people talk about there's a balance between discipline and talent. How much do you think of your ability comes down to your natural ability versus the hard work you put into excelling at Age of Empires 2?
Yeah, so I never considered myself like someone that's incredibly talented or anything like that. Like I got asked the other day, what my IQ is, as if it's something spectacular. But I never felt of myself that I'm like someone incredibly smart or someone incredibly talented. I think that I'm like just an average guy that is competitive and that really enjoyed playing games. And I think that more than talent, what I think pushes people forward is actually passion. I think doing something that you like to do and that you love to do, I think that that's really the recipe to success, because then you're not going to need someone to tell you to do it. You're going to want to do it yourself, and you're going to want to do it to the best of your ability. And I think that to get to number one in anything, you have to be borderline obsessed at some point. And I think that's certainly something that happened with me. Like I was obsessed with improving, and I just loved, like absolutely loved playing, to the point where I'd play a game in the morning, go to school, and think about the game the entire day. And, that level. Obviously, I was young. I didn't have anything going on in life, so this was completely fine for me.
Yeah.
But I think you need to have that like intense passion more so than talent. And when it comes to discipline, I just think that the discipline is also like it's really the passion that drives the discipline, because it's not something that I have to do, it's something that I want to do every day, and that just makes it so easy for me.
So in regards to you're a passionate player, you love to win, so you're super competitive. How do you handle like high stakes tournament environments, or a game that it's going to be tough? Do you have like some sort of ritual? How soccer players have a ritual. They might listen to music before they go into the field, or especially in South America, that's quite a big thing. Do you have any like rituals or superstitions that you do, or how do you prepare for a high stakes environment?
No superstitions. I feel like I'm more grounded in reality. I think I just like to calm myself down and focus on the task at hand. But I have one really cool trick that I learned over the years that I think it could be really helpful to other people in similar situations, which is to only focus on the task at hand and not what's at stake. Like for example, if you're telling me you're gonna play one game for $1 million and I'm focusing on the $1 million, I'd for sure get nervous. Everyone would get nervous because it's like life-changing money and it's only one game, so you feel like you have to perform. But really what you should be doing is focusing, okay, on that one game. Let's just focus on the specific matchup. Really think about how you'd play it normally, how you want to go for it. Think about the task at hand and not the stakes, and that's the best. Like I don't get nervous anymore in tournaments. I only get nervous if I fall back into bad habits and think about the stakes for a second. That's when the nerves kick in.
So talking about that, and I guess this leads into my next question. If you had to separate the top 10 players from the top 100 players of Age of Empires 2, what's the difference between the top 10 and the top 100? Is it much of a difference, or do you think it's big differences?
I think in the last like few years ago, I would say it's a very big difference. But in the last few years, the competition, we got more players in. The competitions kind of rose across the board. There's more like information out there, like guides and tutorials and whatnot. So there's more players competing at the higher levels. So I would say that nowadays it's not a huge difference between the top 10 and the top 100. But usually what the top 10 have as their advantage is that they're just way more experienced. So, you know, the top 100 guys would be able to compete in certain elements, especially in like the early game. But then as soon as there's a lot of decisions that have to be made, that's where really the experience comes in. And I think the AoE2 is a big game. Like experience plays a big role in the game, especially at the highest level. So I would say that's the biggest separating factor.
And with that experience, like, are there things that almost like deja vu? There's things you've seen before happening almost in real time. And you're like, and you have a deja vu moment. I've seen this before, and you know how to counter it. Does that enter your mind, or are you handling every situation as its own unique kind of thing happening and unfolding?
Oh, 100%. I get deja vus all the time. I get some weird ones where I feel like I've literally played this exact scenario, like unit for unit. Like that's like a bit weird. But then I also get situations where it's like a planned deja vu, where like I know like this matchup will take place, and then I've played it like 3 times before, and then it comes in the tournament. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what to do. There's no chance of the opponent. I know what he's gonna do. I know what I'm gonna do, and I know that mine is winning. So like that kind of like planned deja vu is like perfect. As a competitor, when you have that happen, you feel so confident. But I definitely had both kinds of deja vus, and it's sometimes they're interesting and weird, and sometimes they're the sweet spot for you.
Yeah, have you ever had a situation where you had a deja vu moment, something exactly the same was unfolding, and then it just somehow changed rapidly all of a sudden, and it was like a completely different scenario you've never seen before, and you're like, what just happened? Have you ever had that before, like a surprise almost?
I've had that happen, certainly, because I remember certain positions where I'm like, okay, I've played this before, and then I was like, like this is going to happen, like this is kind of what happened last time. Like my memory is always a bit foggy when it comes to deja vus. Like it's hard to explain them, but then a couple minutes pass, and then just a different scenario unfolds. I'm like, okay, and never mind, I was tripping,
yeah, because I have that. I play indoor football still, or indoor soccer. Please, Argentina, leave me alone. And I swear there are moments in the game where like something exactly happens, and like this, it's almost like a supernatural experience. And I'm like, and then you go for that, and it doesn't happen. You're like, oh, okay, I was wrong. I just kind of tilted myself for no reason. But yeah, okay, let's move into this, because I feel like Age of Empires 2 is a game that kind of reflects life, right? And do you believe like strategy games like Age of Empires 2 and even chess reflects deeper truths about human nature, for example, and the way humans behave?
Man, that's a deep question. I don't know if there's I'd probably have to think about that a lot more, but on the top of my head, I feel like I think it'd be a stretch to find that connection, but I'd probably have to just think about it a bit more to really come up with something there.
Okay, cool. I was going to say, there's like, okay, maybe it's because I'm a low elo guy, right? I've never really had a point in my playing career where I've like been really confident to win every single game. Like this, like that innate, like I'm gonna win this no matter what. Sometimes when you get a roll, you feel unstoppable. So like there's a panic that sets in sometimes when something really disastrous is happening. I'm having a big panic, and I'm like, where else in my life does this translate? If I'm dealing with something high stress, do I start to panic, or do I learn how to calm myself down? I guess for me that's probably like an example of an expression of human nature, I feel. But it is, it's a weird game. I swear, once you're tilted, like last week I got very tilted. I just couldn't recover. I had to like go to sleep. I was like, you know what? I'm going to bed. I'm a disaster. My friends hate me. We're all yelling at each other. What am I doing with my life? And I went to bed. Do you ever have those nights, or are you overpowered to the point where you don't even have to have those nights ever again?
No, I can relate in gaming in general, because I think gaming does bring out those emotions sometimes that it's quite normal. I personally don't get those anymore with Age of Empires, just because the way I play the game now is really focused on either like hyper competitive situation, like tournaments with like international stage and big money, where I just can't let emotions get in the way, or I'm playing casual matches on stream, and letting emotions get that intense is just not really viable. So it doesn't happen to me these days, but I can relate in a general gaming sense.
So your competitiveness, do you think it's inherently a good thing, or do you think sometimes it can hold people back? Has your competitive nature ever made you have a mishap, and then you made a mistake in a game where if you weren't as competitive, maybe you're a bit more chilled out in that moment, you would have seen something happening?
I think my competitiveness always helped me in game, like 100%. I wouldn't be where I'm at now without the competitiveness. If it ever got me in some trouble, it wouldn't be in game. It would get me trouble outside the game. Like I would lose a game and then like kind of like trash talk the opponent a little bit. Like, oh, you got so lucky. Like you're actually bad, but it was just laggy. Or I've said stuff like that. I've even said stuff like that to like really good players. Then we still banter about it these days. So I've said a few things that were like just like kind of cringy in hindsight, just because I lost and I was getting frustrated. But I would always say that like I wouldn't have it any other way, because the competitiveness can sometimes get the better of you. But I wouldn't be where I'm at now without that competitiveness. So I would rather have the full package than just play it chill, not have those moments where I'm kind of raging at my opponent in a very cringy way. Yeah, I wouldn't have those moments, but I also wouldn't have the success that I have now. So I think it comes as a package.
Have you this is gonna sound weird, but have you ever applied your strategic Age of Empires thinking into like real world situations in your life?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a very like because I like to play a lot of strategy and logic games. I apply strategy and logic to all kinds of real life, like 100%. I see things like I try to see things, at least when I'm calm and collected, in the same way I'd see them in Age of Empires. Like it has to make sense. It has to be logical. It has to it has to just be a strategic choice. Things like that. I feel like I do a good job of seeing the world that way as well.
And if you weren't a pro player, because you mentioned chess, you mentioned soccer, so I can feel inside you that there's like this, there could have been, you could have been the next Messi or the next Magnus Carlsen. If you weren't doing Age of Empires 2 as your career, what do you think you would have gone? Like, what pathway would you have taken, you reckon?
Okay, as much as I wanted to be a pro soccer player growing up, that was unrealistic. The maximum I could have gotten with soccer is like the highest league amateur. Like that's the maximum I'm getting. Like even if I didn't have confidence issues, even if I was at the top, that's the maximum I'm getting most likely. Chess, same thing. Like highest level in my region, like in my city, maybe province, nothing more. So I was never really like a talent in those fields. More, I was just a pretty solid player. As far as what I would do if I was not a pro Age of Empires 2 player, I think I would try something in either a coaching department or something in a general streamer department, because I love playing games, I love teaching, but I don't like I had an idea to go as a math teacher at some point, but I don't really like going through the schooling system. I'm just not a fan of like schooling system and just school in general. I like coaching more people that have a passion for something. So I would do something like coaching related for gaming, or something streaming related, even if it's not at the pro level.
Yeah. Did you, with your schooling experience, did you enjoy the way, because I had the similar experience, I felt school was kind of like, I just felt like they were trying to create almost factory workers, the way it wasn't very nuanced to understand what I really wanted. To be fair, my high school was a lot better, but my primary school was terrible in that experience. Did you have a bad experience at school, or did you kind of do well at school as well, and then kind of be like, okay, I'm glad that's done, it's time to move on?
Well, I did like primary and high school, like primary, secondary, I did very well, just because I feel like I'm a decently smart guy that grasps things quickly. So with like very minimal studying, I was just getting like highest grades, especially in math. Like that was so easy for me. English and like the other like language oriented stuff, I was always like average at the class, or like a bit above. So for me, schooling was always easy. But it's really when I went to like the higher forms of education that I just felt like it was not for me, because mainly because I don't feel like what I'm doing is actually applicable to real life. Like a lot of the times I'm taking a course, right? And they're so hyper focused on theory. Like, you have to go, read up on, the certain topic. You have to go cite your sources when you're giving information. Nothing's coming from you. Nothing's coming in any form of like real world application. At least that's the experience I had with it. And I also didn't feel like I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. I'm just kind of like, I have to take certain classes mandatory, and half the stuff I don't even care for. The other half is like not exactly what I want to do. So I'm kind of with you in the sense that like school kind of takes away your creativity and takes away your passion, and just kind of makes you into this not like mindless machine, but
yeah, no, I get
kind of like you just kind of fit in. You just average at what you do, and you're gonna be good at some 9-to-5 job. And I nothing about that excited me at all.
Yeah, like a copy and paste type of mentality. And look, at the end of the day, if you're in that situation, it's fine. But if you are a person, I know your personality type seems to be someone who wants that freedom to do what they want to do and come from the heart, as in you're expressing your ability. Like in Age of Empires 2, it's kind of like, it's almost like you're playing a musical instrument in a sense. Like you're pressing all these buttons, like a piano almost, and you're expressing almost like music, but it's not music, it's pixels on a screen and it's moving. So there's that element of, that's probably why people ask you, like, what's your IQ level? Because, when you think of chess, Magnus Carlsen, people go, oh, he's got a high IQ. Music, you got Mozart. So I reckon people would automatically think, oh, Hera must have a high IQ because it kind of has that Mozart style of appeal. Do you ever feel that way, or have you actually ever got your IQ tested, or like? No,
I never got it. No, I never got it like officially tested. I've taken a couple online IQ tests, and I always ranged like something like 120 or something like that, which is a bit above average. But I don't know if I trust those tests, anyways. I'm always like, I'm not like taking it super seriously. Where I had headset on, like I'm focused. Yeah. I'm just I just like to do it because it's a logic game. Like most of them are like logic puzzles anyway. So for me, it's fun. But going back to the schooling thing for a second, I don't think it's bad to like go. Like I don't think everyone should quit school and then figure something out. But what I will say is that try to explore some creative options and things that you're passionate about. And if there's ever a spark, then invest more time and take it at a slow step. I think going cold turkey, like I had a lot of friends growing up that I'm just gonna take a couple years off school and figure myself out, and then they spend it just chilling, literally all day, and that's horrible for you. Yeah, exactly. Like that's horrible for you. You're wasting prime years doing like nothing. So, find a passion. Stay in school as a backup plan, or like it still like kind of builds you up as a person. Anyway, it's not bad to you still get that social experience. Still get to like research different topics and whatnot. So it's still fine. So but I'm a guy that, just last thing quickly. I'm just a guy that thinks that passion-driven projects always succeed more than just something you have to do. Yeah,
in terms of that, because you mentioned before, you play chess. Age of Empires 2, obviously. Did you ever get into shooting games? Like, did you ever try the CS:GO, the Valorants, the Fortnites? Were you ever into that kind of thing as well, or did you stay away from that?
No, I love shooters as well. Like I play Fortnite now, but my favorite shooter of all time is Black Ops 1, and to some extent Modern Warfare 2 as well. For me, Black Ops 1 is such an insane game. I would play it today, literally all day, if there were servers that were like populated and that we can play. I would play it all day today.
Oh wow!
I think it's one of the. I love shooters. Yeah, I think it's because I think there's an element of strategy in shooters as well. It's not just like run and gun, which I enjoy. But I love Black Ops 1, and I also enjoy Fortnite nowadays.
Yeah, Fortnite's a bit of fun. It is. Were you an old school Fortnite player, or you kind of get in later and when it was, season 6 plus?
No, I got in for the first few seasons, not because I was hopping on a trend, because I usually don't hop on trends for whatever reason. I just try to avoid it. So I heard it's popular. I was like, I don't care for it. Then my friends started playing, and they're like, yo, it's actually really fun. So it's like, okay, I'll try it out, see what's popping, and ended up really liking it. So I'm not a builder these days because I'm washed, but I like to just play for fun.
So do you think esports, in terms of, Fortnite had that moment where they had that big cup where, it was quite dramatic. It was in a stadium. Do you think esports, in general, will ever reach the same level of kind of respect chess has? Because chess has a level of like, it's a gentleman's thing. It's something that's like has a class about it because it's an old game, right? Like, do you think Age of Empires 2 could kind of get to that level one day, maybe in the future, or do you think chess will always just have that edge?
So I don't think it's going to be a classy game like chess is, which I agree. Chess always had that like classy aspect to it because at the end of the day, chess is not a video game; it's a board game, and it has a lot of history to it as well. Like it's been around for like centuries, maybe even millenniums. So I think because of its rich history, it just naturally took a more classy role. But I don't think Age of Empires should go down that route. I think we should go down the route of a proper esports where it's like, it's a bit more casual, but it's still very competitive. And I think AoE2 has a lot of potential. Like I think the next few years have a lot of potential for the game.
Do you ever get to talk to developers and give them tips? Because obviously it'd be nice to see, RTS games, just Age of Empires type games become like, we had a moment. There was like Command and Conquer Zero. I'm not sure if you remember Command and Conquer Zero back in the day. You ever play that?
I've heard of it. A lot of my viewers talk to me about it, but I never played it myself.
Yeah, that was a fantastic kind of style of strategy game. It's an old classic. It's the best. And obviously you had like StarCraft and all these other games that were popping off. So there was a moment where it was really, really, really popping off, and then it kind of died. But now it's kind of resurging with Age of Empires 2. There's like this resurgence. Do you think, like, what's missing for it to become a bit more mainstream? Do you think it ever will become a bit more mainstreamed, or do you think it will always just be a specific niche?
Yeah, that's actually an excellent question, because I think you just nailed the issue with the RTS games when you mentioned StarCraft. I don't know much about Command and Conquer, but when it comes to StarCraft especially, it's a game that, like you said, popped off, but because of the nature of RTS, that it's actually just like harder to play and harder to get into, it's never going to appeal to like the mainstream audience as something like Fortnite. Like, that's just a dream that's never going to happen. But I personally think it could be a lot more mainstream than it is right now. And especially Age of Empires 2, because when it comes to StarCraft, if you don't know what's going on with StarCraft, like if you don't know the game, it's hard to get into it because the things are like aliens and like ships, and it's hard to kind of understand what's what. So the gameplay's smooth, and I think it's fun to watch, but it's a bit, harder to get into. But Age of Empires, you can show it to anybody, and anybody understands what an archer is. Anybody understands that, a spearman will counter, a cavalry unit. So I think it's a lot more digestible for a newer audience. And it's for that reason mainly that I think AoE2 is actually seeing a rise in popularity now, whereas some of the other RTSs are stagnating. So I think whereas, the glory days for StarCraft or other games might be behind them, I think for AoE2, it's actually in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I've never actually thought about that. Like, you see an archer, everyone knows what an archer does. You see a spearman, and like it's kind of like, your ancestors kind of use these weapons in the past, so there would be like this almost human biology connection to that, the war aspect. Where StarCraft, you're seeing like laser beams and stuff. There's no connection there. There's no like emotional connection with that. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. In terms of the success you've had, has your definition of success changed over the years, or has it kind of remained the same with your game style and your wins?
I think the definition of success for me is the same, but the standards got a lot higher, because I always aim to get the highest spots, or at least I always aim to do better than myself than I did like last year or last tournament or whatever. But because I've been winning a lot of tournaments, I think I'm at something like 10 in a row now, 10 majors in a row. Anything that's not a win is actually a bad result for me now, which is an incredible, it's an insane, bar to set for yourself. I would have never imagined that I'd have that bar set so high. So the definition of success for me has always been try to do the best that I can and better than my version, last tournament or last month. But the standards just got way higher now.
Yeah, that's fair. If you could teach everyone a lesson from the lens of Age of Empires 2 in their life, what could that lesson be, you reckon, especially with your success and maintaining such a high win rate? What could we learn from that?
Yeah, so I think the best thing that I can ever say as far as advice is to always compete with yourself. I think a lot of people, especially in these days, it's very easy to look at look at what someone else has and be like, oh, I want that, in like an envious way, or to always compare yourself to someone else. But the truth is that comparing yourself with yourself is the only solid way to actually get a consistent level of improvement. Because if you're comparing yourself with someone else, then your success is always going to be tied to how that person is doing. And there's way too many factors there, like, that you're taking a whole other person and tying your journey to theirs, where there's really not supposed to be a connection. So I think that the best advice I can give is to always compare yourself with yourself. And that way you're able to generate a consistent growth that actually improves you as both a person and a player. And I think that can be applied to all aspects of life, like 100% across the board.
Yeah. In your journey, was there ever a moment where you wanted to quit, and you just kept going, or did you just never have that thought come across your mind?
I actually quit several times. I quit once because the game was a bit dead in a way. Like, there's not a lot of people playing, and I was frustrated because I was not like doing well in tournaments, and I couldn't find casual games to improve. Then I quit again because I was busy with other stuff in real life, and I played other games like League of Legends. And I think I quit a third time because of a very similar reason. And then I also quit because when AoE4 came out, I actually went to play that for a second, and then I had another League of Legends phase. So I actually quit AoE2 for a few months, multiple times, like 3 or 4 times, which is interesting that I always find my way back. Did you notice a drop-off in your ability after having such a long break, or like a bounce? Because I feel like sometimes, for example, when I play Rocket League, if I stop playing for 2 weeks, I come back, I'm almost a bit
I feel a bit better. Like I'm like, whoa, like that's been like some webs have been kind of gone. Do you ever get that, or do you notice a decrease in your ability straight away?
Yes, taking weeks or months off is actually really healthy, I think, because it kind of gives you a detox and lets you take away all the bad habits that you once built. So when you come back, number one, you're fresh and eager to play. So you're always going to be like doing better naturally because you just want to play more. You're going to be obviously rusty because you don't have the muscle memory, you lost that. But it gives you a chance to kind of like relearn the game, but from a higher baseline. So you're not going to be a noob relearning the game. You're going to be a former pro, relearning the game, trying to pick up new habits, and a lot of your past bad habits would just be lost because you lost the muscle memory. So actually, I think a lot of those breaks that I took, it was not intentional, but they actually served me really well in the long run. Every time I came back, I changed a few hotkeys, I changed the way I played the game, I took away some bad habits, and I came into the fresh mentality that just took me higher and higher.
So in terms of that, you mentioned you quit a few times. So what's the hardest thing you've ever had to, like, what's the hardest challenge you've ever had to face? And it doesn't actually necessarily have to be with Age of Empires 2, maybe just in general. And how did you overcome it?
The hardest challenge for me personally was always dealing with negative comments online, just because that's not something I ever dealt with in real life. Like in real life, that's not a thing. No one's gonna say negative comments to your face in real life. And like, obviously bullying does exist to some extent, but like I feel like it's a lot easier to confront and deal with or ignore in real life. But it was online, especially in a space that's as niche as AoE2, and I'm a guy that's just active in the community. Seeing negative comments has always been like a challenge, especially when I was not established as a pro. Like imagine when you're trying to work really hard at something and then you fail. You fail in front of everyone, and by fail I mean you lose, or like you got a bad result, you got upset, you got reverse swept, something bad happened, and then you have people like, not just cheering on for the other guy. Someone cheering for your opponent is completely fine in my books, but people actively like bashing me or like saying negative comments about me. That stuff happens in all sports. But for me personally, because it was such a small community, it was hard to accept that reality, and it was really hard to overcome feeling down and feeling angry seeing those comments, and actually getting demotivated from seeing those comments as well. Yeah. Nowadays, it's a different story. Nowadays, you can say pretty much whatever you want about me. I'm not going to care. I still don't think it's right to say bad things about people, but I don't get affected by it anymore. But that was definitely, without a doubt, the hardest thing that I had to do.
But have you never had a player like who's known to be cheeky and will say something to you before a game? Like, they never had it, or is everyone kind of really well behaved?
Honestly, AoE2 is very well behaved. Like, there's like almost zero beef at the top level. But there's a lot of competitiveness. Like, we all like to play and compete against each other. But I would say there's like very little like cheekiness and very little, like actual, bad manners or bad intent. It's always fair play first, competitiveness second. And I personally really love that. And even with the fans, I would say that there are like a small minority that are in like the trolls department, but I think a lot of the fans are just passionate and they just love the game. So it's not like it's hate directed to me, it's just frustration at the situation. But we have a really healthy scene. Like the fans are all really, really good, really passionate, and the players all respect each other. It's actually just a very healthy scene. I'm just talking about like one minor thing, and it's really not the biggest deal.
Yeah, I guess that's for any game. Like, even like when you're playing, have you ever played Rocket League before?
I haven't played, but I've seen gameplay, so I know what it is.
Okay, I reckon, I don't know, I'm not going to push you to play a game, but I think you should try Rocket League. I reckon you'd love it, because it's like FIFA and car racing in one, and it's also soccer, because you're trying to score a goal. So
yeah,
and it's kind of your dexterity and your ability to maneuver a car with just points of rotation. So it's kind of a very fascinating type of game. I'd be curious to see how you'd go, because I don't know, I reckon maybe Hera has a rise in Rocket League as well. Takes out Zed or something like that.
I've been recommended it before. I think my brother even played it at some point. It honestly looks like a decent game. I've thought about trying it, but I have this kind of mental block where I don't try new games now. Yeah. Just because I know that if I get addicted, there's two outcomes. Either I don't like it and it's a waste of time, or I get addicted and it wastes even more of my time. So
yeah.
And I don't think I've got the chance. I'm 25 years old. I'm not going to go pro in another game now. So yeah.
So what
again? It's just that logical reasoning to stay away from other games, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to be honest, talking to you now, I see a man of logic, calculation, and you kind of like what's the not like I don't want to say the meta because it's kind of a tainted word, but you're always looking like you're like Doctor Strange. You're trying to figure out the best simulation possible to get the outcome you want. That's kind of the vibe you're giving me. So outside of gaming, what truly makes you happy? Because I know gaming can bring a lot of joy in your life, but are there things outside your life that also bring you a tremendous amount of happiness? I mean, moving to Argentina, of course, would be a fantastic, it's a change of scenery. It's a complete, almost U-turn to your life in Canada. But are there any other aspects of your life that you draw happiness from?
Absolutely. Like, I'm a big family guy, so I've got like, a couple pets. I'm married. My wife's family, my family. I like to visit them and to spend time with them. So spend time with my cats. I'm a big family guy, and that's something that gives me a lot of joy and gives me a lot of brings a lot of meaning to my life. And moreover, I also like to be around nature as much as possible. So in my younger years, I used to like love to stay inside and play games. But nowadays, because gaming is like my job and it takes a lot of time as is, I like to spend a lot of my free time outside. So that's why I mentioned the nice weather in Argentina. I like to visit new places and travel. I like to just, take peaceful walks in nature. Just things like that that kind of bring a lot of peace to me in real life. And just kind of a nice, quiet, chill life outside of the gaming.
Yeah, that's nice, because there's nothing worse when you hear stories of people who've found success in something and they spend their spare time, I don't know, getting lost on the drugs or the alcohol, or like they just party hard. It's a very common occurrence, especially in soccer. You'd be surprised in England. I had a lot of friends and people who worked in that industry, and a lot of top tier players can get lost quite easily in that lifestyle, and they never really recover. Yeah. So it's good to hear that, because people like the Messis and Ronaldos, you would never see them do that. They are committed. They're family people. They are, and a lot of them are spiritual as well. So they have a spiritual outlet. I'm not sure if you have any spiritual outlets or anything like that, but I mean that's probably a good thing, and good for your fans, because it's weird. Because look, I'm talking from personal experience. I've got a quite large following myself, and growing up, I had to deal with the same thing. You mentioned haters. I've had a lot of haters. I still do have a lot of haters. And when you do have that initial, like, oh wow, not everyone in the world loves me moment, you're like, damn, am I like a bad person? And you have to have that internal dialogue, like, damn, maybe they're right about me. Maybe I am a terrible person, or maybe the things they say are correct. And you kind of have to battle that. And then, you have that eureka moment, like, you're like, screw that. I don't even know these people. They don't even know who I am. I'm just going to be myself and enjoy life. It can bring a lot out of you. Did you ever have I don't want to use a spiritual, but like philosophical moment where you're like, this is who I am, nothing will stop that? Or do you still struggle with self-conflict, or do you get disillusioned by something outside of your control and you're like, damn, why'd I do that? How do you what's your kind of anchor to life? Like, it could be Age of Empires 2 full, I know, but what is your major anchor in life?
Well, I'm a religious person, so I would say that I think religion grounds me as the number one thing. And it's also a really good way to understand what makes you a good person or not. Because if you take, you said, you get a lot of haters, and you question whether you're a good person or not based on this or that. But at the end of the day, that's going to be subjective for each person. So if you, like, for me personally, I believe that if you have religion to kind of give you that guide of right from wrong, as long as you're in the right, you're doing the right things and that you're staying true to it, then you're always going to be down the right path. And if people say otherwise, you probably just have to ignore that and stick to what you believe to be true. Obviously, it's not to say that you can never take criticism and you can never change. We all make mistakes, so getting valid criticism or changing certain bad habits is definitely something everyone should be doing. But at the end of the day, everyone has their own journey, and I think you need to stick to what you believe to be true. But you also have that responsibility to make sure that your beliefs are rooted into something correct, and not just following your desires or following something that's not actually logical.
Yeah. Wow, that's a cool answer. Okay, let's get into a section that I'm sure a lot of the listeners will be, all the low elo legends are waiting for. I was going to do it at the start, but I was like, you know what? No, I want to hear about your life. I want to hear about your story. But for players around that, low elo, I don't even know what low elo is anymore. Like, I consider 900 to 1,000 low elo. Is that low elo in your eyes, or not really?
3 years ago, yes. Nowadays, the 1,000 ELO players, some of them are actually just really good at the game. The level's risen a lot, so I think we can use low ELO as a very loose definition. If you think you fit into that category and you're happy to fit in it, then you fit in it. You're in there. If you're better than it and you think you don't fit there, no problem, champ. This is not about you.
Yeah. Well, if you had to sit, okay, this is actually I thought about this question kind of. If there was someone cloned you, right? And you're, I don't know, what age can you be to be competitive? Is there like a set age? 13, 14, 15, 16 before you can start?
Age of Empires?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be like 10.
Oh, really? Okay. Because in Rocket League you have to be 16 plus, right? So, okay. So say you're 13, right?
Yeah.
You just found the game, and it's you. Someone's cloned you, and you found your clone, and you're like, you know what, clone? And your clone's terrible. Like he's just started, right? Because he's a kid. Yeah. What steps would you give him to accelerate his ability to become a better player? Like
it's funny because I think I made a video about this like a week ago, and I tackled this exact topic, and it was basically if I had to redo it, knowing what I have now, but starting as a new player, I think I can accelerate my improvement to a completely unrealistic pace. Yeah. And the reason for that is, number one, we have a lot more information available now. Like all the information is out there. So I would hope that I have the same passion, number one, for the game. Number two, I would soak in information day and night. Anytime I have free time, I'd always be trying to soak information from the pro players. You always learn from the pro players first. Whoever's dominating the scene, you go straight to them and you learn from it. No point asking other people and getting bad ideas. Go straight to the pros, learn from them, watch how they play, watch what they say. If they're making guides, if they're putting out tutorials, go for those, all the better. And I would use those resources, combine that with playing myself, and then when I make mistakes, I compare my gameplay to the pro gameplay, and just like that, I create a system to where I can get the information really fast, apply it myself, and then also correct mistakes. All very naturally, all in a very natural process, all taken from the highest source available, which is the best player or the best players. And that way, your improvement, your acceleration, it's going to be incredible. Like you would get to, I would say you get to 2K ELO within 1 year minimum. Like that should be easy task if you've got that passion and you've got that free time.
So that's an interesting answer. So you're, and correct me if I'm wrong. So you're saying consumption of high quality content from the pros would accelerate your ability. So is a lot of it just your ability to analyze and understand structure in the game? Not necessarily playing it, because like for example, when you get good at Rocket League, you have to learn the mechanics, of course, but you actually have to put the hours in, like 2 hours a day minimum if you want to stay competitive. Is that the same with Age of Empires? Do you have to play a minimum amount every day to be good, or are there days where you could just consume content that's high level and learning?
I think you definitely have to put in the hours of yourself playing. I wouldn't say it's a daily thing. I would put it more as a weekly thing, because some days you're going to play 10 games, some days you're going to be swamped. Because let's be honest, real life does take priority in a lot of cases. Especially when you're not earning money from Age of Empires or from gaming, you can't justify as much time. You always have a job, or you always have. If you're young, you have school. If you're old, you have a job. You always have something, right? So what I would say is that you should try to play. It's definitely a huge factor, but it should be a weekly thing. And I would say you can probably be climbing the ladder very fast with something like 20 hours a week of AoE2 gameplay, which I think is not that much, but also not that little. It's kind of like, it's not going to consume your life, but it's going to be a pretty big part of your weekly life. But with 20 hours a week, I think within a year, if you use the correct strategy, within 2 years, you're probably going to be a pro player. Within 1 year, you'd get to the top of the ladder, to top 100.
So playing, sometimes you can start playing a lot and you can, never really learning. You're kind of making the same mistake. What are some common mistakes that low players just keep making and they never really learn from? Like I know, I'll just name one off. Like building your farm right to the berries, is important. Yeah. Having your wood cutters thing right on the trees, Are they like really simple things, or are they really that important? Or are there bigger things to worry about than just those simple little things?
So I do a lot of coaching, so I know a lot about bad habits, and the biggest reason that people will be hard stuck, the singular reason people are hard stuck, is because they don't actually learn from their mistakes. So whether they have the mistakes of like inefficiency in the lumber camp, the farming and whatnot, or whether they have other mistakes, The actual problem is not making the mistakes. The actual problem is making them indefinitely. This is how their standard days go. They play 6 games, they don't think about it, then they go tune off and watch AoE2 content that has nothing to do with actually improving. Or they'll even watch pro players play, but they wouldn't be watching to learn, they're just watching to enjoy. And the first thing you have to understand, like we have to just set a base rule, is that getting better at the game is not everyone's goal. So if your goal is not getting better, be my guest to do exactly what you want. If you want to play 6 games and you don't care if you win or lose, you don't care if you get better, that's completely fine. Because let's be real, it's a game. Play it as you wish. But if your goal is to improve, and that's how your journey is looking like, you play 6 games, you're not even thinking, you win, you lose, it's coin flip, and then you go tune off and watch some other content of AoE2 and you don't soak in any information. If you're trying to improve and that's how it's looking like, you got to take a step back and change that right off the bat. You will never, ever, ever get better doing things like that. You will be hard stuck forever. It doesn't even matter how much you play. You'll get hard stuck forever.
Yeah, because there's an old saying, you know what you know, right? So you know what you know. Like, I know I can speak English, and I know that. Then there's things you know you don't know. So I know what brain surgery is, but I know I don't know how to do brain surgery. And there's things you don't know you don't know. So I mean, what are things you don't know you don't know? Well, you don't know, right? And we call those blind spots. Let's just say. Mm-hmm. How would you coach someone to find those blind spots? Or is it up to someone like a coach or a friend maybe to watch your games and go, hey, you have a blind spot here? And you're like, oh, wow, what?
Yeah.
How did you figure that out?
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. So for me personally, it came to comparing my gameplay to other pros. I didn't have any money growing up to spend on Age of Empires, so I had 0 coaching. But what I did have was I had access to other players. I'd somehow message them and try to get some answers. That helped a lot with that blind spot category. But otherwise, I would just compare my gameplay to other pros and then see, like, okay, what the hell is the difference? How come I'm not performing the same? And then try to find the blind spots myself. I think that's the 2 methods. But what I recommend to people, especially if they've got a little bit of money to invest, is if you're hard stuck and you want to get better, I would seek out coaching to try to get someone proper, someone at the top, to look at your game and tell you your bad habits, tell you where you need to go. And with just 1 or 2 sessions, you're going to be a completely different player, right? If you're not concerned about bad habits, I think that sticking with the method earlier about watching the content and playing yourself and taking a very analytical approach, I think that's a completely satisfactory approach, which costs 0 money. It's very good.
Are there specific drills or training routines you recommend for getting better? For example, and I like to use examples because people like metaphors, right? Like in Rocket League right now, I'm using a method where I do 5 minutes in free play mode where it's just you and the ball and you run around, and then I will play 10 games straight. And that's my training. And then, I'll probably watch a video or 2 of a coach I found who's fantastic. And that's it. Is there something similar in Age of Empires 2? Is it as easy as that or not really?
There are some drills that you can do that can train a specific part of your game, like quick walling drills, like microing drills, and unit control. There are a few things you can do. I have never been a big believer in that. I am more of a believer of playing games start to finish as they're meant to be played, and then focusing on the aspects in a gaming scenario, in a real game scenario that you want to improve on. I think that's a better way to improve in the correct setting, and it translates to an improvement in skill a lot quicker, in my opinion.
Wow, that's interesting to hear you say, because I would assume, these are just assumptions by the way, so don't kill me everyone, that you seem like with your ability, especially your microing ability, that you like this guy who's done the same thing over 150 hours for straight. That's it. Just doing the exact same thing. Maybe it's killing your balls correctly or something. But what I'm getting is that no, you just played a lot of games, and over time those abilities kind of just manifested.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm not a guy that's doing the same thing every day and really trying to maximize how he clicks the buttons fast and all that. I barely invest time on boring activities or repetitive activities like that. I would say almost never. I just play the game and I'm actively thinking about what I can do better, and if I do something one way, I'll try to do it a bit better next time, and that kind of builds me up as a player very naturally and in a fun way. So I love doing it.
So in terms of build orders versus just reacting, let's say adaptive reacting, if you're a low legend or you just started, like we just found your clone, we're training him up to be even better, like the hero point 2, right? Would you say learn all your build orders and then try and use them, or just play adaptively and learn on the fly?
So the first thing that you need to do is you need to learn the game itself. So you need to learn the units, you need to learn like the tax and just like how the game works in general, the resources, the very very basics, the skeleton of the game, and that just comes naturally by playing it. So I always recommend you play campaigns, you play against the AI, play with friends, just try to learn the game. Now once you learn the game, you know how it works, and you want to try to get better. That's when the first step is build orders, because a lot of people what they say is, oh, I don't believe in build orders, I don't want to memorize something. It feels very robotic, but that's not what a build order is. Everyone does a build order. Like your builds have to go somewhere. You know what I mean? Start of the game, your build has to go somewhere. It has to go to wood, to gold, to stone. You can decide where it goes. But even if you're not following a build order, you're still making your own build order on the spot. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
So what I say is you should follow a build order, and that's the main thing I provide for my my fans and my supporters. I provide them pro build orders that I use that explains to them exactly where the villagers go for the first like 10 minutes. But it's not in a robotic way. They're not memorizing it and then doing it. They're just using it as a rubric so they can understand what's the best way to develop quickly in the early game. And then I also give them information like why this is good and how you can follow it up after the initial 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, to then carry the game in a bunch of different directions based on the situation. So the build order ends up being a strategy guide rather than a robotic memorize and execute, memorize and execute. That's not how I play the game, and that's not how I teach the game.
Okay. And in terms of it's not really to do with low legends, but a lot of low legends, like they'd watch your content, they'll watch T90. Do you know have you watched Asmongold before? Or do you know?
Yeah, I know who he is.
Asmongold. You've got the XQCs, like they're really popular kind of celebrity type. I mean, they're not really pro gamers as such. Some of them are. Like you got the Necros now, who's doing Spider-Man on Marvel Rivals. I'm not sure if you're I'm saying I know you don't want to play other games, but Marvel Rivals is popping off right now, right?
I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. But there's an element of you can get washed away in all the content. Do you ever get washed away in that content? Or are you just only hyper-focused on Age of Empires 2? Or do you just do you entertain yourself by watching these people, or you kind of avoid them?
I don't think that the current streaming scene at the top is very entertaining. I think that for whatever reason, these people that are not necessarily talented nor charismatic have somehow amassed a very big following.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound as a hater or anything, but I honestly... I just don't understand why so many people watch them. I know who they are. I watch them. Like I've clicked on their channel and I've clicked away almost instantly. I don't find them entertaining. I don't find it interesting, and I certainly don't find it inspiring.
Yeah.
So I don't get sucked into any mainstream content just because I just don't think it's interesting. There's a couple creators that do cool stuff, I'll admit, every now and then for sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of the creators at the top, I honestly just don't like their content too much.
Yeah, because that's the thing of Age of Empires 2, especially Low Legends, the distractions. You want to play, but then you get distracted by a video. So then, what kind of content do you consume then that you feel like is of the tier that you would appreciate? Is there like podcasts or,
I like content that's well presented, either like well thought up. Well presented, something that's interesting, thought-provoking, or at the very least entertaining. But my entertainment has to be intelligent entertainment. I don't like brain rot where it's just things moving fast, silly humor, things that I don't know. It needs to be like some kind of intelligent joke behind it, or some kind of like interesting element for me to find it enjoyable. Like one thing I find enjoyable is watching someone speedrun a game. This is not something that a lot of people would enjoy, but I love seeing like a commented speedrun where they tell me like this certain tactics. It's a game that I played in my childhood that I know about. I find that very enjoyable, and I can watch that for a couple hours on the side while doing other work. Or I can watch certain like commentaries and whatnot about real world affairs and whatnot. And I can also watch certain like high elo streamers in other games like League of Legends and whatnot, because it's good commentary, good gameplay, and it's a game I enjoy. And that would be like the content that I enjoy. I just don't like just
the drama,
low quality Yeah, low quality drama, clickbait
'Cause
entertainment.
right now, there's a lot of drama,
Not for
like
me.
Hassan, H3, Asmongold. It's like this big drama cycle. And I'll be honest, I've been caught up in it a little bit. But people like, I'm happy that people like you exist, because, you know, when you get lost in the drama, then you've got someone like you who's a content creator who's like, their content's enjoyable, it's malleable, but it's got an intellect to it. Because when you watch your content, it forces you to think. Like, you really have to think critically about what you're doing, because it's almost like watching magic. And then you're like, oh, can I ever do anything like that, and how would I do that? And it kind of puts you on a pathway. And I think that's why you've done a really good job on your Patreon account. I feel like the way it's set out is almost like scrolls, and you watch a video and you get the PDF, like, what is this PDF? And you kind of have to like go through the experience of like reading this PDF, like, oh, I haven't looked at a PDF in years, what is this? And you're reading this PDF, you're like, oh, okay. And then like it's full of a wealth of information. And I'm not trying to like blow smoke up your ass, as they say, but I'm literally that was my personal experience of the way you've done it. So I think from a marketing perspective, that's my background, you've done a fantastic job. It almost has like an ancient kind of feel to it, which is a bit strange, but makes sense because it's Age of Empires, right? You got to go up your civilizations. Yeah. Did you do that on purpose?
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Did I do it on purpose? I would feel like I know my target audience. Like we established earlier, the Age of Empires 2 is not this mainstream game like Fortnite where you get that instant gratification and like you just like hooked on it. It's more for like, you know, it's a bit cringy to say this, but it's more for like the sophisticated, you know, the people that want to invest a little bit of time and, you know, really enjoy the game. A bit more slow paced, a bit more thought provoking, a bit more, you know, strategic element to it. So because I know that that's my audience, I don't feel shy to make long format. You know, you got to focus to enjoy it. Or I'm not shying away from making a PDF. I try to make it color coded, you know, easy to read, a lot of information, but I don't shy away from putting that information in there because I know that my target audience is someone who's going to use that information and actually, you know, soak it all in and help them enjoy the game. A lot of the guides I do doesn't necessarily make the players only better, but it also makes them enjoy the game more because it lets them get to a winning position or like a carry role more often. Because let's be honest, even if you're like a 1200 player or 900 elo player, you want to still carry the game sometimes. You want to get to your, you know, strong units, and a lot of my guides help people do that. So even if you're playing casually, using my guides, you are having more fun, you know, with your casual games. And I get a lot of satisfaction knowing that, you know, that's what I'm doing with my work, and I get a lot of, you know, positive feedback about it. So, yeah, knowing the target audience I think was key for me to know how to best serve them.
Yeah, in regards to that, because your coaching is quite good, and I've signed up to your Patreon. I've done some study on you, and I mean I named my dog after you. Actually, I still want to show you my dog because it's literally named after you, and it's a beautiful dog. I'll give you 2 seconds. I'll go find it because I want to show you.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, you're a big girl now. I can barely carry you. Oh. Hera, look, it's... Ooh. 1 second.
She's
Okay.
incredibly cute.
This is very difficult. 1 second. She's getting bigger and bigger. Believe it or not, she's only 5 months old. Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, and she already weighs like 22 kilos, maybe heavier.
She's very beautiful.
Yeah, well, I was thinking of names and I was watching all of your content at the time because, to be honest, my friends, we play Age of Empires and we play Rocket League. And Age of Empires is kind of, yeah, it's a sophisticated game. It's like a glass of wine at the end of the night, or the start of the night. and to be fair, Rocket League is our kind of indoor game. And yeah, so I thought Hera, and she's a beautiful dog. You play beautifully, so I thought, okay, it makes sense. I never told my fiance where I got the name from, so.
Maybe that's a good thing, just in case.
I think she was like, you named it after a gamer? Like, sorry. Luckily, it has significant meaning. And actually, I'll ask you before we start recording, your name. Where did it come from? I know the answer, but I'm just pretending I don't. Your name, where did it come from, and why did you name yourself? So I'm just gonna fix the focus. Why Hera?
Yeah, no problem. I get asked this a lot, and really, it's not that significant to me, but it's just I was joining a clan like 10 years ago, and I was just starting to become a good player, and it was a clan called the Immortals, and basically the whole shtick of it was you need to pick a mythological figure as your name. So I just was browsing, and I came across Hera, and I was like, oh, okay, I recognize this name from Greek mythology, and it sounded nice, had the same first letter as my real name, so I just went with it, and I actually wanted to change it at some point because it was a feminine name, and I just felt like, okay, it's more fitting if I just have a masculine name. But it had already stuck by that point, and honestly, I like it. Like it's I think it's a good name. It's simple, short, easy to remember, and has a nice ring to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool name. Except in Greek, so in ancient Greek, it's pronounced Hera or Ira, and Hera actually in modern Greek means widow. So,
oh, interesting.
When I called my dog Widow, because I'm from Greek, I'm a Greek background kind of guy, by the way. That's hence the Greek flag, and so my ethnicity is Greek. So when I told everyone my dog's name, all my Greek friends were like, what the fuck? Like, why did you call your dog Widow? I was like, no, it's Ida, like the ancient Greek goddess. But to be fair,
interesting.
She is feminine, but she's also a badass. Like she's a very jealous. She's a sister and the wife of Zeus, so she's very jealous, and she will literally kill anyone that kind of gets in the way of Zeus. So she's not just like this softie. She will come for you. And I'm not sure if you've seen the Hercules Disney movie. She's quite... She's strategic, let's just say. So the name is fitting. Like, don't mess with Hera, basically.
I didn't dive too deep into the mythology, but I'm happy it's a fitting name.
No, you did a good job. Okay, well... I'm honoured to have this chat with you, and I appreciate this. I'm not sure, have you done many podcasts before I let you go?
I've done a few, but mostly from within the Age of Empires 2 scene.
Okay.
And I was really happy to accept yours. Number one, because you named your dog after me. So I felt like, okay, this guy, at the very least, I could have a chat with him. But also because I just appreciate someone from like a gaming background that also plays AoE2 that wanted to, have me on the podcast. I'm actually very grateful for the opportunity and very happy to share some of my experience and hopefully spread the word of AoE2, and spread the, what I consider to be one of the best games ever. To some of your audience who might not have heard of it, and to welcome them to our game and to at least check it out.
No, I appreciate that, and yeah, that's like the majority of the reason why I reached out in the first place. Because I feel like, my audience does lie. I don't want to be too egotistical here, but I feel like my audience is more in that sophisticated, critical thinkers, contrarian style, conservative, traditional, maybe you could even say, and they would appreciate someone like you a lot more because, look, Australia's a great country, but we have a lot of people here love watching reality TV shows and like that TikTok kind of rot brain, brain rot kind of stuff. So even if I can have 1% of my audience discover who you are, then that's a dream come true because there's a lot to take from Age of Empires 2. It's a fantastic game, and there's a reason why it's survived for more than 2 decades now, right? So it is, and I feel like you're right. It's going to keep growing. It might not grow as fast as any other game, but it doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to be this. It doesn't need to be the biggest game. It can just be a game that. And to be honest, I think it does have a level of class to it. As long as they keep it to the way it is, they don't try and... You never know with developers. They can change things like that. But I have a funny feeling that the Age of Empires community is so powerful and so in touch with its game. They won't do changes to mess it up. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but...
Absolutely. The developers are players of the game. They love the game. They're so passionate about it. They actually... Like a lot of the people working on the game are people that that were fans doing side projects for fun on the game, like modding and whatnot, that became official workers for Microsoft. So, the game's not going anywhere. It's not changing in a drastic way, only for the better. It gets balance updates and whatnot, DLCs, but only once again for the better. Our community is ever, very strong and ever so slightly, getting better at a consistent pace, which is getting bigger and better. So it's exciting times ahead, and it's a growth that I'm proud of.
And I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad to have someone like you at the top. But this is my final question, and this is going to be it's a unique one. If today you played your last game of Age of Empires 2, what would you want people to remember you for?
That's a good question. I would want people to remember me for my... I think I'd want people to remember me for my rise to the top and my consistency. If there's one thing I think that I'm proud of in a gaming, in my AoE2 journey, it's my consistency. I think that's something that it's easy to make it once, or it's not easy, but it's one thing to make it once and to get your one big win, and I think it's way more challenging to stay at the top for a long period of time in a consistent manner that I've managed. So that's the one thing I'm most proud of, and that's the one thing I'd want people to remember me for.
Fantastic. And I'll just say, I'll leave you one message, and my message to you is, don't underestimate your power in terms of the effect you have on others. I know for a fact that there'd be thousands of people out there who watch you, maybe even more, to have not just been inspired or motivated to keep going in their own life, but you would anchor them in in some sort of way. Keep them on track to become better versions of themselves. And I feel like it's not being said enough, and there's never an opportunity for someone who's not a pro to tell a pro, hey, you do have a direct impact on people's lives, a huge impact. Never downplay it, even if you save one person's life. Like I have a story. One time I made someone smile, and it basically saved them from getting a degree. A smile can change someone's life, let alone the content you create, let alone the games you play. So never underestimate that. Never let anyone else tell you otherwise. You're having a huge impact on the world, and it ripples through across the entire world. And I know that sounds cringe and ridiculous, but it really does, Hera. You really got to remember that. And yeah, congratulations on all your success, and it's been an absolute honor. Please don't be a stranger. I would love to have you back on again, and we could talk about more things. Look, I'm not here to be like the AoE2. I'm not an expert AoE2. Okay, I'm just a guy from Australia, Greek background, white dog. I'm here to just kind of be the guy you can have a chit chat, and I'd love to explore other aspects of your life one day if you're willing and open to that. Philosophy, politics, whatever it is. If you ever want to go there, let me know. But if not, that's completely fine. I thank you so much for giving me this time, and yeah, if you guys are interested, please check out his coaching stuff, and make sure you follow him. But yeah, any final messages for you, Hero?
Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you very much for the kind words. I really appreciate that, and I definitely echo what you said about my position as a streamer. It's not something I imagined I'd have that much of an impact, but I do get some messages every now and then about people genuinely like happy and my content got them through very dark phases. So I definitely know that that's a real thing, and something that gives me a lot of fulfillment in life, knowing that I'm not just playing a game, but I'm also helping people out that need it and that don't find help elsewhere. So I appreciate all the people listening to this podcast from your channel. I appreciate all the people listening from my channel as well. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys found it interesting and fun. And I wish you guys all the best in your endeavors.
Thank you.